I think I'm drawn to the more extreme ends of behavior and the human experience. It's one of the joys of working in film is that you can push things beyond their like natural worldly limits.
We'll see you in court.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Oh, hi, Mark.
It's delicious. Oh my God!
Let's get the boring, simple question out of the way first. Can you summarize what Magpie is and what people can expect from the story?
Sure. I think Magpie, I would summarize it as saying it's a neo-noir with some like thriller and horror aspects, that's elements, that's about a couple, Daisy Ridley and Shazad Latif, and they have a kid who gets a role in a movie, and while chaperoning the kid to the movie set, Ben, who's Shazad Latif character, starts an affair with the lead actress of the film, who's called Alicia, played by Matilda Lutz, and the film looks at what happens after that point.
Let's talk about the neo-noir kind of vibes, because I was getting a lot of kind of giallo feeling and a lot of sort of noir thriller, which we don't really see that much of anymore. And I know you come from a theatre background as well, and it had that kind of quite theatrical feel to it. Was that something that, when you read the script, that you had always decided that was going to be the style, or was that something that kind of came through conversations with the writer or from the shooting?
I think it came through conversations. I think like what Tom wrote so beautifully was very much, well, it felt like it had elements of drama and thriller to me. And I think we all sort of got together, and as you're sort of trying to get a film going in pre-production and so on and planning it, it's important, I think, to really hone in on the kind of genre or genres you're working within, and then really try and draw on the best examples of that to like pump them into the veins of the piece, basically, and see what sticks. So it became more noirish, and I suppose that is chiefly because most noirs seem to have characters with like morally questionable behavior and also characters, a normal character who's put in a totally abnormal situation and pushed to their limit, and you see what they do. And obviously it's about the sort of shadows and the dark thoughts we have and the things that you don't say and you don't reveal. So I guess all of those things kind of coalesced in the script and the characters, and yeah, then we really ran down the kind of neo-noir road as hard as possible.
Are these kind of ideas and characters and stories that you generally are drawn to? Do you like the kind of darker, quirkier side of human nature, because it's sort of based in truth, but also it has that quite sort of fantastical, surreal element to it as well?
I mean, yes, I think so. I think I'm drawn to the more extreme ends of behavior and the human experience. It's one of the joys of working in film is that you can push things beyond their like natural worldly limits and take things to an almost fantastical level. And obviously the film itself there is a film within a film. There is a film being made. There is an affair that takes place. It begins mostly by text message. And so we wanted to make that a very visual, imaginative, like expression of how it feels to be texting, rather than a kind of real world depiction, which is like thumbs on keys. We wanted it to be more heightened than that. So I guess from the start, we were working in a more imaginative, a more like fantastical space, really, because I think you actually go into two characters who are both in their own way trapped in the kind of prison of the mind, as they say, or living a free life in their mind and then trying to bring it into the real world. So I guess the heightened elements of it are like related to the desire to make visual certain things, which, and also all cinema is kind of heightened, isn't it, really, in a way, by virtue of it being completely fake. Who's it? Cinema, the camera lies 24 times a second, it's that kind of.
Right. Yeah.
Like quality felt like it lent itself well to this story, I would say.
That whole meta film within a film idea as a director, do you treat that any differently to a normal shoot? Because obviously you're having people dressed as crew, and there's obviously crew on set as well. I can imagine after a 12-hour day, you're going, hang on, who's the actual gaffer and who's in the shot. But does that feel a bit surreal to you as well as a director?
Well, what was fun is we did use some of our actual crew to play the crew of the film set, the film they're making, those who wish to be part of it. And then we did have a sort of fictional crew. But I mean, I always find it quite interesting when you see films that look at how films are made. It's not the central focus of this film, but I suppose what happens in the film is Anette knows nothing about what happens on a film set. So when she goes along, we kind of go with her, and she's like, "Oh, this is how it happens. It's kind of noisy. It's unclear where you should be." And one thing I really like is I think particularly all of us can get seduced into the idea that those people we see on screen, the actors, have a perfect life, and everything's perfect, and they look great all the time. And when you actually look at how a film is made, it's kind of quite grotty and brutal oftentimes, and really basic sometimes too. But the finished sheen is very attractive and seductive. And I think Ben Shazad Latif's character is drawn into that and goes, "Look at this movie star. I bet she is just perfect in every way. And if I was with her, I'd feel no pain at all for the rest of my life." So it's kind of, those meta leanings I really quite like about kind of what we see in movies and how we imagine actors to be is shown in a movie itself. Seeing a man fall in love with the idea of who Matilda Lutz's character is, who plays the actress.
Yeah. And in terms of directing thrillers and horrors or genre films and kind of finding those moments and balancing those tones, like it feels like a very seamless kind of progression from standard kind of kitchen sink drama up to the kind of heightened surreal thriller by the end. How do you kind of find those beats and those moments to go, oh, here's where we'll like pull the kind of surreal elements and here's where we'll kind of turn things up a little bit? How do you kind of make that transition?
Well, that's a great question. I'll try to answer it. So I suppose the first thing was about making serving like certain story elements in the most cinematic way we knew how. So, for example, if Annette is at home having psychological kind of breaks, how we show that in camera in the most effective way. Then you're putting that, I realized her isolation worked quite well next to the noise and the life of a film set. So sort of putting the two of them next to each other and cutting back and forth to sort of heighten the otherness of each of them. Then there's the text message language, which takes you into a sort of fantastical space. And I think a lot of that is performance too, about how the performances kind of by degrees move towards something that's more extreme. Music is obviously a massive part of that. The costume, the way we use design, the way we use camera. It was all designed to sort of step by step, escalate the tension, but very subtly, but wholesomely, so that I knew like I was going to use the song at the end of a film really early on. And so I thought if we can get to that tonally, then the film hopefully will have worked. So then sometimes you're tracing back to then tell the story and then make sure you're kind of giving the audience enough as you go along to keep them interested, but not too much that they are bored, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it was really kind of subtle, and I like those moments where you don't quite notice the seam and then all of a sudden you go, hang on a minute, that feels really odd, or that feels really off. Where did that come from? So I thought that was really cool. Amazingly, we're almost out of time, but just really quickly, I would love to talk about how the cast came together and how directing that cast kind of elevated the script, because clearly getting the dynamics is really important for a small cast and a small location film. So how was that process of getting those dynamics and directing those actors to get the finished product?
Well, Daisy came attached to the script, which was very exciting for me. Nice. And she was also attached to the script brilliantly. So beyond that, then we worked with Dan Hubbard, our casting director, to find the rest of the cast. And I think really, always, I'd worked with some in theatre before, and some were very new to me. And we cast Hibbert Ahmed, who played the kid. So really, always you're trying to cast people who are just compelling and interesting in their own right. There's a lot of kind of disparate stories in this. So you wanted people who just had their own thing going on, so that whenever you turn the camera on them, there'd be an extra story there off screen that you were kind of interested in. So you're trying to balance an ensemble, I guess, that kind of can just like deliver the story and deliver the genre well. And you really want just great actors across the board, and we're really fortunate that we got them on this. I think everyone's kind of is working very, very well together to kind of land the plane. So, and yeah, Daisy, I just think gives a remarkable, very committed, incredibly well calibrated performance in this role that she, helped to create, and certainly feels very like totally at the center of the film in a really exciting way.
It's an effectively horrible film in the nicest possible way. Very skin crawling, and kind of feels true to life, but also at the same point kind of has that nightmarish tone. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic, and I'm going to be at the Fright Fest premiere for Halloween in London, so I'm looking forward to seeing it there with the crowds and hopefully meeting some of the guys as well. A massive congratulations on the film, and thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you, Chris, very much. I'll see you at Fright Fest.